Many would like to blame this event on the FBI's lack of action or the Trump administration, but the simple fact is that the laws of our beloved country allowed for the deranged gunman to purchase a gun legally. The law has failed us.
They can walk around any question they want, but the more they don't act, the more they don't deserve to be in office.
I am extremely, extremely angry and sad. And I don't know if I'm going to be traumatized because of this. I don't know if I'm going to have faith in my state and local government anymore.
All right, those kids are Parklet students. Of course, they're making their views known to those in power in Tallahassee to change something and do it fast to get a control of the guns that are in the state. And they're not going to stop until they do. To Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Napolitano on all of this. What do you think?
Very, very powerful and emotional statements. I can't remember. I'm saying this as a fierce defender of the right to keep and bear arms, but I cannot remember a time in all the years you and I have been doing this kind of work where children, where a movement has been led by children who were victimized and traumatized, and it had the emotional effect. I hope it doesn't have the legal effect that they want, because the problem here, in my view, is that the government has established gun-free zones, and one of them was that school.
That's right.
And the only gun in the school belonged to the murderer, the killer. If there had been other guns in that school, not in the hands of children, but in the hands of administrators or teachers, like in Israel and in other parts of the United States, that would have stopped him. I keep thinking of the very, very heroic, very, very affable and large football coach who threw his body on several students, and his body deflected the bullets and the students lived. If he had been carrying a small handgun and ran toward the killer, shooting at the killer, he would have saved a lot more people. But he was prohibited from using a gun that he owned. He didn't have it there because he can't bring it to school. Prohibited from bringing it there because of Florida law.
But, Judge, and I know I'm risking your wrath here, but do you think our founders envisioned a society that we had today with so many different weapons, so many weapons, period, so many of these automatic weapons, so many of these devices that can make them even more dangerous, that anything approaching this, and they would not have countenanced it?
You know, I don't know what the founders contemplated. I can't imagine that they could have contemplated the nature of weaponry today. But Justice Scalia actually addressed that in the Heller case. District of Columbia versus Heller is the case that defines the right to keep and bear arms as a personal individual right. And he basically said, we're not talking about muskets, which is what the founders thought of when they wrote the Second Amendment. We're talking about weaponry that is of the same strength and power that the government has and the same strength and power that the bad guys have. Otherwise, it would be like shooting fish in a barrel. Shooting fish in a barrel is like what this murderer did, because he knew that nobody would shoot back.
So when you hear, other than yesterday, or I think yesterday, the day before maybe, you were talking about the cracking down on who gets the guns, that too is a slippery slope. And I can understand privacy concerns and everything else. So what do we do? Leaving aside the fact that armed people in these places.
That's what we do.
That's
a crazy person who wants to kill will find the means to do it. And the way to stop him is to kill him before he harms anybody. I know that sounds brutal, but crazy people are not going to obey the law. People that want to kill couldn't care less about the law. They have this lust that the rest of us don't understand to kill innocents. This is as alien into your human nature and my human nature and the people watching us now as is imaginable. But it obviously exists in some select people.
Why do we have such a problem here in this country, Judge? I mean, even when you look at it in general shootings on a person basis, it's disproportionately wacky in the United States.
I can't answer that. But why were the doors open?
Yeah.
The doors aren't open in a hospital. You can't just march into a hospital. You got to stop and say who you are and why you're there. They're pretty simple, basic things that they could have done. They did have a school guard.
Yeah.
And he was a quarter of a mile away in a building where the students weren't physically present.
But you're worried that whatever people's viewpoints on this subject, a tragedy will be used to what?
There are forces in this country that have been trying to take guns away from Americans for generations. These forces will try to use this tragedy to walk closer to their goal, which is a disarmed citizenry. And a disarmed citizenry is a nation of sheep.
Judge, thank you.
You're welcome.
Very, very much.